Hello, everyone. This is Pojo, and welcome to Eternal Brews. So it is November 12th, and we have just come off of the World's Finals of RNG Eternal's Eternal Tournament Series. We were qualifying player. We had, I think, fifth most points out of anyone, so we got invited to the World's Finals to compete against the top 16 players, and I did not great. I think we placed 14th, but I wanted to show off the list that we decided to bring to the deck, and bring to the event, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what went wrong with the list and also what we've changed to make this list both more viable in tournaments and more viable on the ladder. So what I did was I brought a deck that was primarily Hooru flyers, and the reason for that was that I wanted to attack the current meta, which is pretty heavy of Xenon control, Xenon mid-range, some Praxis stuff, and of course Argenport with, of course, Tavrod. You see some Armory as well. Basically, I wanted to have something that dealt with sort of those big endurance units in the middle, but also was able to just sort of fly over all of the other stuff. And I felt that that was like a really, really good answer to sort of the big mid-rangey time stuff. I think that overall the deck did very well against those lists. I actually had pretty good results against all of the Argenport and Xenon and Praxis lists that I was trying to fight against, but I lost pretty hard to the 4 to 5 different aggro lists that were brought, and so I only ended up going, I think, 5 out of 15 rounds winning. So we didn't get a high enough record against the top 16 to stay out of the elimination bracket, and eventually we lost to a Combre Party list in a pretty desperate 3 out of 2 single elimination. So that was very unfortunate, but it gave me some time to think about what we had done with the deck. This was an 11th hour pick. It came out basically as an idea against the sort of field that I didn't really find until Thursday. I got about 2 days to test it, and what I found with it was pretty good. Like, it actually tested very well, even against the Bandit Queen lists, although I didn't have enough time to really test and make sure that we were having very, very reliable draws. And what ended up happening is the deck was not quite reliable enough. So I wanted to make some improvements to the deck, and primarily I wanted to improve its early game presence and also so sort of give it a little bit more of a curve. And what we ended up adding was Cloudsnake Hatchling. That's actually about the only change that we had to make this deck feel really solid in terms of playing against sort of the earlier aggro archetypes and also playing against the other stuff. Excuse me, we have kind of a sore throat at the moment. Playing the other stuff, which is to say all of the mid-range stuff, at a more reliable hour. Cloudsnake Hatchling is not a particularly great card on its own, but it does well enough with cards like Eager Owlet, Cloudsnake Saddle, and Wild Cloudsnake, which of course benefits from small units with flying very, very hugely, that it actually makes a pretty decent pick. And since this deck is a tempo deck, it is all about sort of developing a good board advantage and pushing to that mid-range Shelterwing rider and basically just getting enough advantage out early to really sort of push the game before it really gets into the control or mid-range level of damage. It is actually a really solid card here, and we can do a lot of cool things with it. Primarily against the aggressive decks, we can play it down and we can put a saddle on it, and early on we can also play some cards like, we can do Wild Cloudsnake and Cloudsnake Hatchling against the control decks. There's a lot of things that we can do with that. Okay, but yeah, let's talk about the basic deck plan. So this is a Hooru Flyers deck, and it is very, very aggro Flyers. We are specifically trying to push over our opponent's head. We're trying to get very reliable draws with a lot of 2-drops and 1-drops and 3-drops, and just kind of push in, make sure that our opponent is dead before our opponent can basically kill us back. And we do not respond as much to sort of the hard removal type stuff. In fact, we defend against it as much as humanly possible. We run 4 Protect, 3 Backlash, and every time that our opponent tries to silence or knock our flyers out of the sky, we rebuff them as harshly as possible. The deck also specifically wants to deal with Sandstorm Titan, and to that extent it has at least 10 different answers to it. 4 Vanquish, 2 Polymorphs, and 4 Valkyrie Enforcers. With all of these cards, we use those to kill the Titans and the Tavrods, and make sure that those cards do not get a chance to crack forwards at us and have that sort of basically shut down moment where we don't really have a lot of things going on. At the top, I run Peacekeeper's Prod. I was running 4 of these in the tournament, and I actually really do like this as a 4 of, but it felt a little bit deep for the amount of colors that we were running, and I had a hard time casting it. So we are now currently just running 2 of those. And basically that is a card that stuns an enemy unit on the ground. This is really good against aggro decks because you can use it to counter a very big aggro unit at a crucial time and set up a perfect clock against your opponent. It's also pretty good to knock flyers away, to basically get yourself into a position where you can surprise your opponent with lethal, because you both disable a blocker and also give your flying unit a health bonus and an attack bonus at the same time. Peacekeeper's Prod is really, really strong, and I think this card is really, really solid for other things. In addition, we are running a single one of, sort of fun of, Nostrix, Lord of Vision, although I do think this card is actually a pretty good top end for the deck. If you use it on the card Shelterwing Rider, then it will always be a card that can attack in, which is important because Shelterwing Rider, while a very powerful card, often ends up hanging around on the field without an Aegis as a 0/5. So we're specifically trying to buff up those cards like the Eager Owlet and the Shelterwing Rider that are not as useful in situations where your opponent is very heavy on control. This also works very well with Cloudsnake Hatchling, a card that typically doesn't really influence the match very much, but against the more controlling lists, Nostrix can sort of blow your opponent out there. And you can run more Nostrix if you're feeling like this deck is pushing a little bit more to the mid-range. What we have here is situated to be very, very aggressive, but if you want to go for defensive flyers, you can cut some of the early game and basically up the Nostrixes, up the Seek powers, and get yourself into kind of a control archetype where you are just playing flyers and then defending them very, very carefully. And that's an interesting way to go about it as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about the list as we play it. I think there's a lot of cool things that are going on here, and this list can be really, really dangerous. I do think it's a pretty reliable competitive list, and I always am happy to introduce more of those. So let's go ahead and play a couple of games with this and show you how it feels. Cheers! Alright, we're up against somebody whose name I can't pronounce. I've got Seat, Hooru. I have a Wild Cloudsnake. I have 2 to 3 to 3. That's a pretty good hand. I'm fairly happy with it. So we just go Hooru, Banner, Seat, and then play Cloudsnake. I have all of the influence that I need, which is really important. And Shelterwing Rider at the top means that I've got a really good curve. Yeah, this is very solid. Cloudsnake into Harrier into Rider. I can use Valkyrie Enforcer instead if I'm feeling threatened, which it looks like I'm going to be threatened. This is straight Skycrag aggro. We can Vanquish potentially some things if the war cries persist, or that could create problems for us. Hard to say which. I think I might block the Oni Ronin here. Cinder Yeti, okay. Meaning I can't block, which is not that big a deal. Let's just go ahead and go Hooru Banner here, Cloudsnake Harrier, and I'm going to play the Defender here since I've got the Shelterwing Riders. That should give me a pretty decent defensive advantage for a little bit. We can race this deck, but it's not a great idea here. There goes the Cinder Yeti. Less blockers for me, but I still get to do that. And then Valkyrie Enforcer will silence something, or Shelterwing Rider will allow me to just block it. I think I like Shelterwing Rider best. Now I've got a 5/5 to block with. I could attack with a 3/3, but I think holding still might be better for me right here. Permafrost, yeah, stunning. Rakano Outlaw, not a card that I care about. Snowcrest Yeti, not a card that I care about, actually. So from here we get to block the 2/1, we get to keep the 3/2 on under lock and key. And I can Valkyrie Enforcer or Vanquish if I need to. I've also got some good Polymorph plays. I think that whatever I want to do, I should probably do now. So let's go ahead and go with, let's say, Valkyrie Enforcer, silence the 4/3. I can polymorph the Pyro Knight later, but no, the Pyro Knight's gone, so we're good to go. I can attack here if I want to. The blocks don't look great for him, but I think I'd better stay put because I'm taking a little bit too much damage, and there's some pretty risky things that could happen at the end of this. Alright, everything attacking. We're going to block the Overwhelm unit with the Shelterwing. Go ahead and kill the... actually, let's kill the 2/2/2s. We can vanquish the other one. So Vanquish here. Attack for 6. Play Tinker Overseer, and now I can double block with the 0/5 and the 2/2 to prevent all damage dealt to me. Borderlands Waykeeper, that's a pretty scary card. That's actually a very scary card. I'm not sure if I have any great answers to that. We'll just probably go with... Wisdom of the Elders wouldn't be bad, or I could just attack all in and chump block it. It's going to be a 5/6 in the air. If I attack all in, I've got 6, 7, 8. It's not quite good enough for super lethal. 6, 7, 8 plus 9 and 11. Oh, actually it is enough for lethal, so we just attack with all of this. We let him do his 3 damage to us, and then we kill him. There are some possible ways this goes wrong, like he could get... Obliterate won't do it, but this chump block doesn't look as good as it should, you know. I could also have blocked the 3/2 there, but this is lethal. There we go. Alright, so yeah, wrap that one up pretty well. And yeah, this is sort of a tempo deck. It's a little bit slower than most aggro, and you can play a little bit defensively early if you need to. That's one of the reasons why the Cloudsnakes are in there. They're really good against Pyro Knights and Oni Ronins. You can just play them down. You don't have to deal with those early units as much, and then you get your 3/3s, and you have like more blockers against Rakano Outlaws and other stuff, along with your protects and your backlashes. So you can be pretty defensive and still actually have offense in the air later on in the game. You have to be very careful about how you order those attacks and defenses. Like basically, depending on what you put forward is going to be really dependent on what you think your opponent's going to play and what they actually have up. So knowing your opponent's deck is really important for that kind of stuff. And if you're not sure, it's best to commit to aggression. That's the Eternal Basics #1 lesson. So yeah, I think that was pretty good, and we'll record some more games. All right, next up is Hosed. I've got Cloudsnake, Eager Owlet, Cloudsnake. Man, that's beautiful. This is perfect hand, actually. I think it's a really beautiful curve overall. I get to play the Hatchling on 1, which I don't necessarily always want to do, but it'll be pretty good here because, like, if we see aggro, then the Cloudsnake's great, and it also gives the Eager Owlet some good stuff. I'm seeing a lot of Stonescar lately, so Cloudsnake's actually just being a real pal for that. I could attack here, but obviously we want to stay defensive because it is, you know, Stonescar. It's going to do Stonescar things. I could actually protect to defend myself. There's also Cloudsnake's Saddle, which gives me a 4/5. Ooh. Alright, we can get sassy with him if we've got a 4/5. There's not much that a Stonescar deck can do about a 4/5 in the air. And then I can play down Eager Owlet on the next turn and have Protect up for Torch, and be pretty happy with that. Oh! Different Stonescar than expected. Fair enough. So he gets his value there. I assumed it was Stonescar Rally, and I was proven wrong. So we'll just go ahead and play out the Eager Owlet here. I've got the Protect ready, and we'll just block that 1/1 if we need to. Quarry is going to help him get stuff. I'm guessing he knows that I have a Finest Hour or Protect here as a result of the Quarry. He's discarded a Witching Hour. That's an interesting decision. So this is a Witching Hour tokens deck. Go ahead and play Cloudsnake Harrier. Attack for 3. And I'm going to be aggressive with this one, because this is clearly doing some silly stuff with tokens. It's not going to be rallying as much. It's not going to be in my face as much. If I just push in, I've got a 3-turn clock at the moment, and I've got a Protect to protect that 3-turn clock. So I'm pretty happy with what I've got. Alright, so... yeah. That's interesting. Start my turn. Switch my mouse real quick because we have a... just noticed that I've actually got my louder mouse plugged in. I keep a mouse for FPSs and for card games because basically we want a quieter mouse if we're going to be doing silly things. Okay, so let's go with the Cloudsnake Saddle I generally put on the Eager Owlet, since if a unit gets removed, Owlet sometimes loses, you know, the ability to attack meaningfully and defend meaningfully. So we'll just swing for 9 here. That puts him on a 2-turn clock. And his answers are very likely to be single target in the form of Combust, so we'll have Protect up, and we'll be very good at just not interacting with him. This is one of the strengths of the Hooru decks. They don't usually they tend to repel a lot of the scarier things that are going on. Horus Traver's a weird card. I'm interested to see more of this deck. This looks like a really interesting Witching Hour deck, but I think we clearly handily hand any sort of silly deck or any sort of deck that needs a lot of setup. That's something that the Hooru deck does not tolerate. We are on the cusp of being an aggro deck, so we are very capable of dealing with those harsh control lists. Next up is Wolflink. Another master. I've got Wild Cloudsnake, Eager Owlet, Valkyrie Enforcer. None of this is great. I'm going to redraw because we've only got the one power and it is our one depleted Emerald Monument, so that's really not on our list. I will play... Okay, this is interesting. I have all of the influence that I could ever want, but I will be a turn behind. So that's going to be a little bit rough. The good news is I will have a banner up, so we're going to have the Seat of Order first, and then we'll play the banner so we can protect our units. That'll be good if we draw a protect. Otherwise, it's going to be Eager Owlet on 3, Tinker Overseer on 4. That's not an amazing curve for me. So we have a Seek Power, sure. And, oh, I got the Seat of Order. That's beautiful. So I'll just play the Eager Owlet on this turn. And Wolflink can deal with it as he likes. Okay, seeing some Combre. This could be Combre Party. It could be... Looks like it's New Tomorrow ramp, actually. This might be one of my decks. We will play... Definitely Hooru Banner. I don't love playing Wisdom here, obviously, because we want to be attacking in, especially against a more defensive deck. So let's just swing for 3, and then we've got 5 in the air next turn, which is quite a bit of damage. Seed of Progress there. I've got a Valkyrie Enforcer. What I want to do, though, is play the Shelterwing Rider, because that actually leaves a body behind after a Harsh Roll.
Think you can escape
Desert
me.
Marshal probably blanks the Tinker Overseer. Oh! Went for the Owlet instead. That would suggest that he does not have a Harsh Roll. So he's still going to have 2 damage here. And then Shelterwing Rider will ride out that. Okay. So I have a blank 0-3, a 2-2 in the air, and a 5-5 in the air with an Aegis. And the 5-5 does lose the attack. He had the Harsh Roll too. I have no idea why I didn't blank the Tinker Overseer then. That was just incorrect play. Alright, so we will go ahead and let's go with... Kind of like Wisdom here, but I think I should probably... no. Valkyrie Enforcer is going to be useful against a lot of different cards that he might be playing. So we're going to Wisdom here, and we did pick up a 2-drop. I'll play that instead. At the moment, I'm not sitting on a lot of aggression, but if I find Protect, this suddenly gets to be a lot scarier. Lumen Defender is a deadly unit. That's not really a big deal. I'm really wondering if this is a Chalice deck now. Go ahead and attack for 2. And Nostrix, Lord of Visions, can hit all manner of great things. Let's go ahead and put a Valkyrie Enforcer down as well. And my turn. Now if I get Harsh Rolled here, I potentially have a Cloudsnake into Nostrix, which is just a great anti-Harsh Roll. I'm not sure what Wolflink is doing. It looks like Chalice. Perhaps Chalice with the Yeti Bolt. He's going to get some card draw out of this. And I think this is my list, actually. Okay, so we'll Nostrix Lord of Visions here. Buff that up, swing for 5. And now I've got 15 damage in the air, plus a Cloudsnake Hatchling, which isn't going to do a lot. Yeti Pult is definitely going to be drawing cards this turn, unless he decides to Harsh Roll, in which case, hey, he didn't draw any cards. That looks good. So now, if I get a Cloudsnake Saddle, I win. If I don't, I still get 15 damage in. And we'll leave the Cloudsnake Hatchling to buff up something later in case of Harsh Roll. I'm guessing there will be a Harsh Roll at this point. Nope, couldn't find it. Okay, good stuff. Alright, 1 or 2 more games. We're up against Ninja Cricket. Ninja Cricket... Not sure if I know what he's going to play. We've got a Justice here. We'll redraw. And this is looking a little bit more exciting. Hooru Banner, Seat of Order, Justice Sigil, and Emerald Monument. I get to play Cloudsnake immediately, and that should be a really good deal. And then I also actually have what I need to play Nostrix. So we'll probably play out our Emerald Monument at the earliest possible convenience so that we don't get... Okay, Vara's Choice can hit all manner of different cards. I'm guessing he'll go for Nostrix, but if he does, he's going to get blown out by my early game. Okay. So that's a high level of confidence in his ability to deal with my early. We'll go ahead and play out the Wild Cloudsnake next. And then I have to decide if I'm going to Emerald Monument and Tinker Overseer or Shelterwing Rider.
It's written right here.
With an Emerald Monument on top of it. And that's going to be determined by what I draw here. I think I really want to do the... Well, actually, having a Protect up against, like, Banish or Death Strike would be a really good idea. So we will actually, I think, play the Overseer
Don't
here.
drop your tools.
Attack for 2. That way, if I draw a power, I can Shelterwing Rider. But if I don't, I can Emerald Monument and play the Valkyrie Enforcer against potentially something scary. If he has removal here, which he does, I get to protect. And then I drew an undepleted Sigil, so I get a Shelterwing Rider.
Spirit rise.
And that gives me 5. Plus another 5, so we are now on a 2-turn clock. And this deck gets really scary really fast in terms of how much like aggression it can generate. Nothing in response here, that's good to know. I'm going to stick an Emerald Monument on the Shelterwing Rider to basically force him to put his removal there. And if he has a Banish or something... Ooh, he didn't have anything. He could have a Iron here, but that's about the only thing I can think of. We see a Harsh Rule, I've still got 3, which is really good. That's one of the great things about Shelterwing Rider, it holds those weapons really well. But looks like he just didn't have anything, so really, really good stuff. This deck sneaks under a lot of stuff if you don't have the right removal for it. Alright. Alright, so that's the deck. Here's a variation that we ran out with some time to sort of set up cool stand together and obelisk plays where you can get a bunch of flyers and then you can buff them all up with the stand together, give them Aegis off of Shelterwing Rider, and just like sort of go to town as far as things go. It also uses Humbug Swarm, which is a fun way to buff up those Cloudsnakes and Owlets. Just basically create a bunch of little flyers and then use those to swing over your opponent's head. I think this version's a little bit more unreliable, but I really do like it. I think Stand Together is like a lot of fun, and this is an interesting archetype to tweak around with. I think that 3-color flyers has some potential if you have enough Seeks and Diplomatic Seals and other shenanigans going on. So play around with the power base a little bit, and if you see something you like with it, then yeah, could be lots of fun. But yeah, the Cloudswarm deck is quite solid, and I think I recommend that people try it out. It's a good competitive list, and that's pretty much all I have to say about it at the moment. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers!